it's not common to have special brains with immense experience of life amidst our own setting. So we really appreciate your time and you're welcome to this engagement. So maybe before I introduce our team, I allow me refer to one wise, since we have men and women of wisdom. So is one wise man, the name of Martin Niemöller. Probably you've heard this, and he had a very interesting statement to make. He said, at first they came for the socialists. I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists. I did not, was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews. I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then finally they came for me, and there was no one to speak for me. That was Martin Niemöller. And so it's not an ordinary feat to have people who have deep wisdom and a huge sense of practical knowledge that can be applied for the betterment of our country. And so allow me quickly introduce the names that probably don't need introduction. The leaders of this nation that have been very consistent about the great future of our country. So first we have a doctor that is very unyielding and has remained firm, irrespective of all sorts of offers, has remained steadfast on the future of our country. So welcome, Honorable. Next is Honorable Yokas Bihande. You very well know him, the giant from Kasese, our great leader, and you remember him very well in Parliament and other places in the district of Kasese leadership. And so we are glad to have the elder Bihande. We have Senior Counsel, Honorable Wandera Ogalo, a very celebrated constitutional lawyer, a member of Parliament of the Ghana Parliament, a member of YALA, the personal mentor. Yes. Yeah, so we are really, really humbled to have you. So welcome, Honorable Wandera Ogalo. Thank you so much. And then our own leader, the national coordinator of the Alliance for National Transformation, a very consistent and powerful lady that has remained firm amidst all circumstances, as you can imagine, all the way from Serere and Parliament and accountability committees and that. Honorable Alice Alaso Ashamit, you're very welcome. And the leaders, we have the other leaders who are behind them. You know the Julius, huh? My sister. The other lady, Honorable, you may not know. My sister here. That one ran as for woman MP in Tungamo district, very big as she is, as you can see. And she almost, she just postponed her success. So this morning is very special. We thought as a party that we need to get a unique sense of national guidance. And so we appeal to our elders, our senior citizens, to make time and engage the nation on the way forward. We know our country is in this area. We know what's prevalent in the nation. And so we are very humble and really appreciate your time. And so allow me to invite the Honorable Yokas Bihande to lead us in the statement, and then we shall invite the colleagues to expand on the statement. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Here we are elders and senior citizens, subscribing to the ANC political party. And we wish to address our fellow Ugandans on pertinent issues concerning our country. So we have found it prudent to use today's media platform to make our modest contribution for redirecting this nation. The current political situation in the country demands an urgent reflection. Ourselves in an unprecedented government mess, failed service delivery, and institutions are not performing their mandate effectively, especially where agencies of coercion are used to create fear. The human rights situation is concerning, and many Ugandans are still missing and unaccounted for. The climate of fear in the country is so pervasive, and people have been forced to withdraw into themselves and not to express their grievances. This climate of fear is being deliberately created and systematically instilled to silence all manner of expression of grievances, and that is a danger to this country. On the other hand, poverty is on the increase, while a handful are continuously enriching themselves at the expense of the citizenry. There is a massive corruption, broad daylight robbery in the form of deliberating taxes. It is evident that there is a lot of abuse and misuse of power characterized by massive corruption and public wastage. These are matters that should not be swept under the carpet. If anything, this is the time to critically highlight them. Taxation is going to the lowest person even in the market, in the village, but the money that is collected is also being put to waste. So it is a double-edged sword. Money is collected, everybody is being taxed, but the use of that tax collected is also being robbed. So we're being robbed in the market and outside the market. And yet we notice that every attempt is being made to shift the focus of Ugandans to matters that are short-term, leaving out most of the strategic issues. As senior citizens, we appeal to Ugandans to focus their attention and energies on enhancing and deploying their civic power to advance and continuously demand accountability for the political mandate that the NRM currently holds. We desire that the Human Rights Commission and the Electoral Commission execute their mandate of enhancing civic awareness in the population and voter education. Ugandans must exert pressure on the government to address issues of electoral reforms. Otherwise, the next election will amount to another political ritual. The government must come out openly what their position is regarding electoral reforms to ensure that the will of the people is respected. We know that political parties have been targeted so that they become weak and fail to organize internally. The current attacks on opposition political parties are geared to creating an impression that there are no alternative to the current regime. Our appeal to all political parties in the opposition and democracy-seeking forces is for them to refocus their energies and strengthen their outfits and skillfully managing conflict so as not to allow the regime to weaken the opposition. We appeal to the NRM party to delink itself from government to enable it to grow. We also appeal to Ugandans to seriously pray for our country so that we may not experience the worst, given that the regime has become oblivious of the suffering and massive poverty and economic challenges that are confronting the nation. God and my country. Senior citizens and elders, Honorable Wandera Ogalo, Honorable Miriam Matembe, and myself, Yohande Yukasibo. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I think it's important that we get you get here from the other elders before you give or you ask to give any comments or ask any questions. So I think we are going to hear first from the doctor, the lady who stood for ethics in this country and has remained consistent on ethics. Yeah. Dr. Miriam Matembe.
Thank you very much. I want to say that it is by the grace of God that you describe me the way I am. On my own, I would be like anything else that we are seeing in this country. So I want to thank God that ANT has invited us and given us this opportunity to give our view, to talk to Ugandans about the situation that is happening in Uganda. We as senior citizens are not here to criticize or here to do whatever, but we are here as a concern for this nation. And me personally, many people, when they say certain things and I'm gripped like I'm about to get heart attack, they say, but what is the problem? And some of us speak that we speak because of the environment where our government, the NRM government, where it picked us from, that environment behind, and what we had gone through, and what we had suffered. And one day we saw hope. And when hope came, we rose up. A person like me, I rose up and went wholesale 100%, knowing that never again shall Uganda go back to the situation which we are describing now. We went with all that expectations, all that ready to participate to deliver our country from the ditch where it was and then move it forward. For me, it was like heaven had come down and I had to embrace it and enter into it and never again to go back into the darkness of the devil who may be where I had been. And when you see me read at times, they say, why are you angry? I say, it is the heart, especially the way I see Uganda. And I talk now, by that time, I was 32 years, a youth. And so now I'm 70. Isn't it so painful to see that after these 30 years and going and embracing and that we are now on the road again, facing the other end, that what we were suffering then is what our young people, the youth, are suffering, except that it is now worse. When I see all those people lined at the airport, all those girls and boys going into slavery, at least we never went into that. It pains, it hurts as a mother, as a grandmother, and therefore say, oh God, Uganda, where is our country going? So for me, when you invited me to come and make appeal to Ugandans and pour out my heart, it's not that I don't like the government, it's not like what. I worked with the current president. I know where we came from, and I clearly tell the people that where we had reached, if President Museveni had not come, I don't know. We were gone, I tell you. And that's why we embraced these women talking and being in parliament. If it was not for that original NRM to come and create that political environment, you would never have known Matembe, you never have heard about her. So now that environment which was created, which we came and prayed in, we had thought that it would continue. And if it had done so, Uganda would be ahead. We would rest in peace with the senior citizen, knowing that yes, it was done. But what we see now, as you have listened to our statement, brings us here to cry. But for me, as I cry, I have cried, but now the only way I cry to is to my God. I cry to my God. And I want to remind Ugandans here, what God revealed to me is that, by the way, at the foundation of this nation, Uganda entered into a covenant with God, because it said, for God and my country, in our motto, and then in our national anthem, it says, oh God, we relay our country, Uganda, into your hands, when you uphold it. Now the Lord was revealing it to me that we violated this covenant. Now that we violated the covenant, we are facing the wrath of God, like the children of Israel used to do. So my appeal for me today, we have read the statement, you have heard it. I want to tell you people listening to me that every Ugandan, every sensible Ugandan, maybe except those who are robbing, and their eyes are closed, but every Ugandan knows what we are talking about. The pain, the suffering, the situation that we all know. And for me, my appeal is, please, Ugandans, don't just look at parties, don't criticize parties, no. Let's say Uganda is our country. Where is it going? Does it have hope? And then we say, me as Miriam Matembe, what is my role in changing this situation? You as Miria, you as Karuhanga, you, when the totality of us reflect and see that actually our nation is really going back into the ditch, and each of us have a role to play. While we focus on our God, who, when we repent, yes, he will redeem us, because that's what he says in 2 Chronicles, that when my people who are called by my name humble themselves, come down and bow before me and ask for forgiveness, I will forgive them and heal their land. For me, that is the core I'm telling to you Ugandans. We are not here to just critique. We are talking about the redemption of our nation. And each of us has a role to play. Because while we talk of corruption, what about you citizens? Why do you allow to be bought by 1,000, and after elections, you don't get anything else? Why do you squeeze these leaders of yours to bribe you? And we need a total cleaning of our leadership wherever we are. And we need a total cleaning of the citizens themselves, that we may go back and focus on God and say, to hell with theft, to hell with greed, to hell. We need our nation. For me, those are the words I can say. I am calling upon God. We have cried to you, God. We still cry to you, but surely our nation needs redemption, because we are just like sheep without shepherd, and we don't know in the end the leopards, the lions, the whatever, which will grab us like they're already grabbing some of us. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you. Let's hear from Honorable Wanderu Gallo.
Thank you. I think I'll pick up from Miriam, where she took you through what she called was a very bad past. There was an attempt to move away from that past. Miriam here is one of those who spent 4 years going through the whole of Uganda, asking people, how do you want to be led? She was called the Constitutional Commission. She was a member. 4 years moving to every village in Uganda, asking people, what kind of leadership, what kind of law do you want? After those 4 years, they compiled a huge book of over 1,000 pages containing what the people of Uganda wanted to be in their supreme law, the Constitution. They were even so good that they reduced it into what they called a draft constitution. All those views they drafted for Uganda and said, this is how your constitution should look up, depending on your views. Then Ugandans now elected through a general elections in 1994, people to go to the Constituent Assembly to specifically deal with only the constitution. Not the parliament. They said, yes, there was NRC, which was parliament then. But the people of Uganda said, no, we want to elect people to go and deal only with this thing which has disturbed us for a long time. And for almost 2 years, about 1.5 years, those representatives of the people of Uganda debated and came out with what they said is what is now a national consensus. This is how we want to be led. If we can be led this way, all those things the media has cried about the past being terrible will no longer visit us. So that document was a national consensus by the Ugandans themselves. It wasn't forced on the people. The Ugandans themselves, that this is how we shall be governed. So in that document, there are certain principles which will keep us run away from this, what we are telling you today. It is embodied, there are principles in that document, in what the people of Uganda say. The problem is that we have not lived by that consensus. Because there are basic principles like sovereignty of the people. That's what the Ugandans told the Matembes. We want to be sovereign. We want to have the last say in issues affecting us. And the Constituent Assembly put it as number 1. Article 1, the people are sovereign. And they shall determine who leads them. Number 2, they provided for rule of law, that all of us, whether you are a ruler or the ruled, the same laws will apply to you. Whether you are a border, or you are a judge, or you are a cabinet minister, the same traffic rules will apply to you. Rule of law. And the third important principle was the independence of the judiciary. So all these issues, we have not lived with what the people said in the consensus document. So there is a need now for the country to have a reset, because we have not lived with the consensus at which the people themselves said that's how they should be led. That reset, that recommitment to the consensus which the people of Uganda put forward is what will remove all these ills we are reading today. If you look at the principle like a rule of law, which I've said is simply that we are all the laws apply to us equally. Then this cutting of corners by certain people because they are big, wouldn't be there. All these issues talk about corruption, drones picking people, all those things are against the rule of law, which the people of Uganda already agreed upon. So it is simply that we need to recommit to the consensus, that the country needs to refocus. And I agree with Matembe. This is not a question of political parties. You see, for some of us who have lived through these bad times, we will tell you that when this thing comes collapsing down, it doesn't know that you are NRM, UPC, DP, all of you face the same consequences. For us who have lived through these things, know that. So the country should put itself above these differences, political differences. Yes, there must be a common good to which we all subscribe. Then we shall push our country forward. It is very disheartening to some of us who went through the things I'm describing. Very saddening and frightening that you younger people may have to go through them. But they are not good experiences. They're not good experiences. So that national consensus was supposed to keep you younger people from experiencing what we experience. To give you something on which to build yourselves. But wherever you go today, whatever you are, wherever you are finding, people are only expressing suffering and happiness. So in conclusion, Ria, give you time to ask us so that we can tell you these things we have seen, the good ones and the bad ones. In conclusion, really, I would just appeal that the sovereignty of the people, that they are sovereign, is restored. Once that is done, once you restore the sovereignty of the people, none of these issues we are talking about will fall by the wayside. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Ogallo. Thank you very much, our senior citizens. So now we'll, if you have any questions or quick comment, we can pick it up from there. Yes. Yes.
Thank you very much. My name is Andy Zumba Katuseli Ateli. I come from the Star Uganda. I have two questions. One goes to Honorable William Ateli. William Ateli left government as a minister in which year was that?
It's okay. She left the. Yes.
I need to remember.
Yes.
However,
2003.
all along I've been seeing you praying to God. God to God. Are you praying to the right God? God also could be praying to God. So why is God not answering your question? Your question? Because you are praying, they are praying. They are in power, not in power. You need to consult the kind of God you're praying to. I am thinking. Number two, AMT. When I look at most of your faces, you have come from other parties. There's no Honorable Kabambe, no Honorable Ali Sabasu. I know Honorable William Ateli. It's the other gentleman that I've been with on the Pan-African platform. He said not joined any other party. The other two. Now, is the problem of Uganda really manufacturing as many parties as we can about the common good? Honorable Hande Mwambali from Kasese. That common good, can it be achieved through manufacturing as many political parties as possible, or all of us coming together through even a non-partisan discussion and find a solution for Uganda? Because I'm sure in a few days to come, Honorable Mputu is going to begin another party, and he's also going to give us an idea that we need a new Uganda. So every party starts a party. Is that the question? Thank you.
Since I want to go on this, let me answer your question first.
Just a moment,
Yes, you said you are who?
I forgot where you got you have also forgotten my name.
I'm senior citizen Haro. You are a young man, you should not forget.
Yes. My name is Irumba. You can just call me
Yes, Irumba. First of all, I want to caution you about God. Never joke about with God and why playing to. There is only one God. One God. And that is the God on whom Uganda is built. Because the founders of this nation, wanting to secure Uganda to free, they built it on the foundation. That's why they said, for God and my country. And of course, they placed Uganda into the hands of God. And so for me, it is that God. Even when I was holding a Bible, I held a Bible, swear. That's what I held. So that's the Bible I know. That's the God I know. The God of my Bible.
And that's the Bible they are praying.
Who is the God of Abraham? I mean, if you know them, if you are playing with them, you talk about their God. Me, I don't know them. I don't know who they pray. I know whom I pray to, okay? And so it is that God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob, God the Father of Jesus Christ, my Savior and Redeemer. If I would had a long time, I would tell you about that God. And that is the God I pray. That's the God I cry to. And I can guarantee to you that even for NRIM to come in here, nga we prayed. We prayed. If you have ever read the Bible, and I think even in the Quran it is there, the journey of the children of Israel. It was not easy down the road, and you know the Lord delivered them like we were delivered that time in January 26, as when God delivered us and we danced for him and so on. The children of Israel were delivered from slavery, and down the road, the journey was supposed to be 11 days by the way. But it took them 40 years. And even those who left Israel, only two who left Egypt, only two were able to cross because of their attitude and their mind and that kind of thing. In fact, many times, by the way, a number of times I have said, God, should we who were there at independence, should we die first so that people who never saw our independence can move on? Because of the mentality of that mentality which really caused the children of Israel to suffer all those years. They crossed to the promised land. For me, let me tell you, at the time of the removal of term limit, I saw that as crossing over to the promised land. Because I thought when Moses sent Joshua and Caleb and the rest, they were seeing the promised land across there. They went there, but what report did they bring? They brought the terrible report, which was terrible, which angered God, and then he finished them, and then in the end they went back into their wrong time. And when you relate it to Uganda here, our main problem from Ugandans, hearing from what Ogaro was telling you when I traversed Uganda, our major problem, the issue which came from the public was, you people who are here tell us about the constitution. You want to build Uganda from the time the colonialists did not build it. You want to build it now as Ugandans. But what are you going to do about the major problem? We said, which major problem? They said leaders who don't want to leave power peacefully. They said it all over the country, and that's when we said, okay, what do you want us to do? That let us limit the term of the president. We said, can we limit also members of parliament? They said no. The president is the one who has power of money, of army, we can't remove him on our own. But the members of parliament, we can always vote them out. That's what Ugandans said. So they provided for the removal of, for a term limit of 5 years. You ask why Matembe was thrown out from government? Because of my honest and standing right with what the people told me. So the people said that one will help us. We say, what if you remove him when you still want him? He will not go to die in exile. He will be, that is, I don't want to take you into that history. You are young people. But that is the kind of history we are telling about. So I was when the term limit came, that term limit, we had just reached a stage where we were going for the first time in Uganda to hand over power peacefully from one president to another. That's what happens in other countries. You may get a wrong one or a right one, but at least one will come, do their things, and they go, and another will come. And now, that's when we, as like the children of Israel, we were seeing about to cross over to the promised land. And what happened? People were voted to remove the term limit. And therefore, removal, and from that day forward, we went back into the history. So for me, my God works. My God is there. He saw them. If they hadn't removed like the promised land, we are now at a stage where the children of Israel are having refused and brought a bad report. The 40 years, when by the way you are joking, these are 40 years. We are coming in 40 years. Oh, praise the Lord. Maybe after 40 years, we shall be delivered. 40 years are down the road. In the desert, rambling in the desert. So my God, and you as Ugandans, you can go through challenges and whatever, but he is, and I can guarantee our God is listening. He's listening. If you Ugandans really do what God wants, drop stealing, drop the corruption, drop the fear. God says, do not fear. I can't fear. The one in me is greater than the one in the world. What should I fear? Why should you fear when our country is built on the foundation of God? Rise up with the real God. Stop the other ones. Stop the other gods which my brother here is talking about. They have been brought onto the scene, the whatever, idolatry, all those things you have no time to go in. But they have spoiled this country. Okay, I finished about God. He's there, he's listening. And what I want to say now is parties. Let me tell you. Ogaro told you about the Constitution. It was not about parties. We established liberal democracy. Liberal democracy demands acceptance of alternative view. There could be so many parties. There could be 2 parties. There could be 3 parties. But these parties are working under a good conducive political environment. Read that we should have liberal democracy. And therefore, there should be every party which wants to form, let it form. If it gains people, it gains. If it doesn't gain, it doesn't. But what we would come out with as Ugandans is a government, and that is the party which finally wins, assuming there were real, genuine elections. That is the government, and then the opposition. The role of government is known. Serving the people, they put in power with a program, you implement that program. The role of opposition is known in liberal democracy, is to be watchdog. Watch, hey, here, you said you are doing this, but you are not doing it, and yet for us, we have alternative. It is not fight. It is not fire. It is not bringing military because a member of opposition has said whatever. No, opposition today may be government tomorrow. And that's why when there is liberal democracy, the parties form. If the opposition is one which is majority, it win. If they combine themselves, but they have a role to keep government in watch, and they should do it. They should not fight with government. Government should not fight with opposition. Government should not kill opposition, and opposition should not be killed by being greedy to be both. That's nonsense. The problem in Uganda, it's not opposition or government, it's the leadership, the citizens of Uganda, especially those who have gone into leadership position. Instead of going there to serve the people, they have gone there for their stomachs. Instead of using the power for service, they have the power for their own self and stomachs. I want Ugandans to perceive that situation as that. That's why you also, citizens, promote that. Why do you accept it to be both? We are poor. I used to live in this country. My father was a peasant. They were poor peasantry people. I had never seen them made into beggars. Senior citizen begging on the soldier. And you are a senior citizen, a respectable person. You Ugandans, by the way, I'm losing interest in you. Defending you is becoming difficult for me. You are undefendable. You reduce yourself to paupers, to beggars, and you turn into nothing. Why didn't our parents also, who were suffering, behave like that? Come on, morality, moral fabric, and ethical values into this country begin within the families. You families, instead of stealing for your children, please bring morals and values. You hear? What is important for us as senior citizens and Ugandans is not just to party form party. That is nonsense. Don't involve us into discussing that kind of thing. We want redemption of Ugandans to be back into humanity, to be human beings, as God. And I pray that God may release His Holy Spirit upon this nation and upon Ugandans to really be redeemed and restored. Thank you very much for your kind attention. I'm going for another.
Thank you.
Maybe
Yes.
to add on little on what Honorable
Yeah, we are continuing.
Matembe has
You speak some little Ghana.
I am late. You find me where I am.
Okay, it's okay. We'll get some Uganda version.
to add on what Sister Matembe has said on the formation of the political parties. You know, political parties in this country is a superstructure of political underlying forces. So what we should understand first, Mr. Irumba, is what is causing the formation of these political parties. So the political situation in the country guarantees or warrants that political parties should be formed. You know, desperate situation calls for desperate solutions. I will give a simple example. You talked of the common good. I hope the common good is the redemption of this country. But the issue is how. Each group or each formation has its own means, the way it thinks this country can be redeemed because of the underlying forces, the political situation in the country. I'll give you a simple example. If you have a rat in the sitting room, me, I can say, no, let's use a rat poison. Another one will say, no, let's use a mouse trap. Another one will say, let's call for a stick, and we shall, all of us are targeting and doing what? At killing this invader who has come in the sitting room. So there is no big problem about formation of political parties. We're in a desperate situation. We're looking for desperate solutions. Our target is to redeem this country. How we shall do it, each organization is planning how it should be done. But at the end of the day, we are supposed to meet somewhere. Thank you.
Maybe before the next question also comes, let me also answer this issue of Andrew, this issue of political parties. Why are political parties?
Sorry, just a second.
Why are political parties every day you are coming up with more and more political parties? I think we can best understand this when we also understand where these political parties are coming from. Is Uganda like other countries which have had political parties running since independence? We had independence in 1962. 1969, we banned all political parties and put to the leader of the Democratic Party in Luzira. We remained with only one political party, UPC. 71, the coup comes, the ban is even that one. So there were no political parties. 1979, when Amin is overthrown, people who come and say, we don't want this question of political parties. We have what they call UNLF, the umbrella. All of you should belong together. What you are trying to hit up, Andrew. We tried that we can all be under this umbrella. We failed. We went back to political parties in 1980. 1986, the first thing President Museveni does when he captures the power is to ban political parties. This one you are asking us now, why are you forming? This is their history. The first thing Museveni does is to ban political parties in 86. We even go further on in the constitution to constitutionalize what we call the movement system. which the courts say is a one-party system. It is not until 2005 that political parties come back. So if you take the years from 1962 to now and calculate the years when political parties have been in existence, they are lesser years when they have been in existence. So understand that we are grappling. Political parties, we have that problem. We are just trying to see how do we operate. Whenever we try to crawl and see how we operate, somebody comes and puts us in a fridge. In the Constitution, the basis for political parties is freedom of association. Under Article 71 and 72, the people of Uganda went ahead and said political parties shall operate this way. Let's go with the consensus of the people. Like the hand has said, if people want to freely form and have an agenda, let's have it.
Good. Thank you very much. I see you want to. Okay. Let's then. Maybe we can have three. Then we.
Yes, my name is Ben Jumba. I work with Nation Media Group. I have two questions to the senior citizens. You talked about Ugandans fearing. I wonder if you are following.
Uganda what?
Fear. I wonder if you're concerned about what is happening in Parliament and reports of abuse of office and embezzlement of public funds. Would you have a comment about the same? And lastly, you talked about the electoral reforms. The government has categorically said there is no money. Up to now, no money has been availed for the LC1 elections. Women councils have not been elected. And do you think that we still need to push for polls in 2026 if these reforms that even the court recommended are not in place? Thank you.
Ramson.
Thank you very much. My name is Ramson from NBST. In your speech, in the statement, you talked of opposition political parties focusing on conflict resolution because it is giving NRM gap. I don't know how you think this should be done because nearly every party, NRM by the way, has internal conflicts that need resolution. But let's focus on the opposition that you're talking about. Every time there is a meeting between opposition political parties, the final target, which is the talk now of removing the dictator, if I might use the statement, there is always division at the end of the day. How do political parties attain this conflict resolution? And what is supposed to actually front or spearhead this conflict resolution? And this resolution that you're talking about, is it DP focus on its DP, NUP focus on its NUP? I don't know where they are conflicts in ANT, but should ANT also focus on its conflict resolution? How should it be done? What should spearhead it?
Okay. Any other question? Very good. I think those are the questions we have. We'll ask our senior citizens to respond. Then we have some quick version of the plan. Yes. So, Honorable Ogali, you want to first?
Okay. Jumba, you spoke of fear, and then you also spoke of what is happening in Parliament. Not just now, but even in the past regimes, fear has been a weapon. It has been a weapon for the city government to continue in power. A lot of it is done to send a message so that others also don't do that, don't get involved in So yes, fear has been there. As Ugandans, we must just see a way of how we can conquer our fear, how we can be able to speak up. It is an individual decision. It is not something you can say all Ugandans will do. People have different approaches. Somebody is thinking of school fees, another one is thinking of food, this one is thinking of that. So on the question of fear, yes, it is there. But I just want to point out that it is always used, it has been used in the past regimes to ensure longevity by a fitting government. So the question is how the people overcome that fear. And that is an individual issue. What is happening in the parliament? I wouldn't very much want to go very much jump into that because what I know, the little I've gathered is not conclusive. The exhibition has said there are bad things happening. The speaker has said there are rumors. So until Parliament itself puts in place a mechanism, it will be difficult for us to start commenting when we are not well versed with what the truth is. No money for the electoral system. No, even LC1 elections have not been held. The questions of elections is critical. The reason given by President Museveni for dragging this country into a 5-year civil war was elections. We went through 5 years of a civil war. It cost lives. Properties were destroyed. People went into exile because of elections. So I think it is not a thing which should be treated lightly. When elections are due, they should be held. You cannot at the same time say power belongs to the people, and then you don't allow them to choose their leaders. So elections are so central to the stability of this country that it should take priority on the consolidated fund. There should be no excuses about we don't have money to hold elections. The power of the people, you recall the last parliament had even passed an amendment to the constitution to say, no, we shall not go for elections in 2021 because we need 7 years, we shall go in 2023. And the Constitutional Court said, no, you can't do that. So the question of elections, as far as we are concerned, there should be no excuses. Money should be found. NBS divisions, yes, there will always be tensions in the political parties. The most important thing is having a mechanism within the political parties to contain those differences. There must be in the constitutions of political parties mechanisms. Before the things go out and start quarreling from outside, you should have a mechanism within your own constitution of every political party of people who can come and resolve those problems for a political party. And it can be done. You see why we even have a provision in the constitution for coalitions is to allow political parties to work together. So it should not be an internal thing that every political party is on its own. There is a provision for a coalition for working together. So the leaders of all political parties should be able to come together, sit and see what is best for their political parties and also for Uganda. Many times, maybe the problem comes because of selfish interests by leaders in political parties. Sometimes that happens. That's why you may find problems. I recall that when there was, in 2011, there was the formation of a coalition, there was an attempt to form a coalition. But as to who would spearhead that coalition, who would be the head, created problems within the political parties. UPC said, yes, Olalo Tuno, you go and talk to those people in that coalition. But unless you are the presidential candidate of the coalition, don't commit us. DP was even split. There was a Rubega faction saying we want a coalition. There was another faction saying, no, we don't want a coalition. And eventually it ended up, I think there was a split. Then we had the Subi and so on. So there is also some weakness in the leaders of political parties in not having this give and take, wanting it to be mine. I think that covers what
Something little on the electoral reforms. You know, a ruling regime to take a decision on electoral reform, they should focus on two things. Will these reforms we make continuously sustain us in power, or are we going to reform ourselves out of power? So the issue is not that there is no funding for electoral reforms. The issue is when the reforms are there, what happens to us in power? That's the biggest question the regime is asking itself. That's why these reforms are not there. I will give you an example of what I went through. Two scenarios, actually. These last elections, I was collecting declaration forms for the presidential candidates, and my candidate was Mugisha Muntu. In Bukonzo County, I collected over 80% of them. But when I was driving to the Tale Center, I was detained at a roadblock for 6 hours. To the extent when they released me at 6:30 in the morning, and I drove to the Tale Center, they had finished tallying the results for the president. And when I asked what had been read with what I had, completely different results. What had been fed in the computer for onward transmission to electoral commission was completely different from what came from the polling station. There's another situation I went through that was the elections of 2011. We had gone through elections. I had won, my wife had also won, and we had been gazetted. After about 1 week, we received court summons that we should go and recount. There is a recount for what we had been gazetted. So when we went to open the ballot boxes, we found that these boxes had been taken from the stores of electoral commission to some private home, and they had been opened, and someone had messed up with the ballot papers to show as if the ballot papers had been messed from the polling station. Till we asked questions, how come that it is on polling station A that over 100 people have spoiled their ballot papers, and in a similar way, someone tries to put 4 more ticks on the ballot paper, or 3 more fingerprints on the ballot paper? How? Is stupidity in this particular polling station, and about 10 of them. And then you would look at the ink on the ballot paper. Electoral Commission normally uses big, but these people who messed up the ballot papers were using nice, and the ink is different. So ask the chief magistrate, look at these ballot papers. This ink is not like this one. Someone must have broken into this ballot box after election. So they can't do such a thing when there is electoral reforms. They can't detain me at a roadblock when I'm going to the Tale Center when they are reformed. So the issue is when the situation is unclear, what Museveni calls fishing in troubled waters, they will continue fishing and catching fish in that troubled waters. The troubled waters must remain for this regime to remain in power. That's why they are not anxious and eager about electoral reforms, because you can't reform yourself out of power. That's what they are thinking. And that's what we're calling upon Uganda. And please, let's put more pressure so that we can have these electoral reforms and we can have transparent elections. That's what is taking place there, locally.
Somebody says the battery is going to help me.
I will make a quick summary just to give us a brief
Of this.
Brief of that and your thoughts.
Let me gamble and see.
Okay, so sum it this way, they both give one or two sentences. Yes.
Let me gamble, but you know, where I go, where things are so bad, you cut. Don't keep on recording.
You mix Kasavu Kanyama.
Maybe what
You
should
mix
do is
Kasavu
you
Kanyama.
speak like you speak freely. When the word comes in English, put it there and continue. Don't struggle to put it in Uganda.
Be careful, don't say Kibagagalize Mbizi.
Kakati tugamba nti ensi weeyimiridde ku ssaawa eno kyagala tutuulemu tulabe ki ekigenze obubi ennyo ekyetaagisa okutereeza ebintu bya politics weebiyimiridde. Tuli mu mivuyo okuweereza abantu, omuzungu kyayita service delivery, ekyo tekikyaliwo, kiriwo naye nga kitono nnyo. Ebitongole ebyobufuzi ebiyamba okulaba nti ensi etambula bulungi nga palamenti, IGG, abalamuzi, nabyo tebitambula bulungi ne bimaliriza emirimu gyayo bulungi kubanga zaagyo bulungi kubanga waliwo engeri y'okutiisatiisa egiramu eddembe ly'abantu byonna nga tebigendera nga bwe byategekebwa. Okutya kuno kuyingiridde nnyo mu bantu ne kireeta abantu okutya ne bavaayo ne basirika. Ate mu kusirika okwo si kirungi mu nsi ng'abantu teboogera ebibaluma kubanga gavumenti eriwo okukolera abantu ebibaluma naye n'ategeera etya ebibaluma naye nga abantu nga mubatiisizza. Ekyokubiri kyetwogeddeko poverty, obwavu buyitiridde, balina bingi, abatalina tebalimira ddala, inequality. Corruption bajja bayita enguzi, biki byo byonna nabyo bize bingi nnyo mu nsi ya Uganda. Bijja ssente byandikoledde abantu byetuyita service delivery ne zigenda mu nsawo z'abantu abatono. Ensi tesobola kulaakulagana nga ssente ez'omusolo ekitala ky'okukolera ku bizibu by'abantu zigenda mu nsawo ez'abantu abatono. Ebyo nga bikyali awo, ffenna akakati amagezi tugasiibidde ku ki? Ku election 2026, buli omu ali ku 2026. twerabidde ebizibu bye tuliko. Akati 2026 bwenagwa ali nga tuddayo mu bizibu ebyo byennyini ffe tugamba nti ensi etunule mu bintu ebyo ebizibu ebiriwo kakali. Ekiseera ky'okukola focus yonna okubeera ku ki ku 2026. Era tusaba bannayuganda nti baveeyo n'ebitongole nga Electoral Commission ne Human Rights Commission nabyo biveeyo okulaba nti abantu bategeera rights zaabwe, basomesebwa mu civic education ne voter education, balyoke basalewo kiki kyennyini kye beetaagisa okukola mu kulonda. Naye okulaba nti abantu bagende balonde naye nga tebamanyi balonda byaki, kijja kulwa abakulembeze abatuufu. Era bannayuganda balina okulaba nti bateeke amaanyi nnyo ku kintu ky'okukyusakyusa mu bintu by'okulonda, electoral reforms. Kubanga electoral reforms ezo zeziyamba okulaba nti abantu b'olonze be batuufu era bajja kwogerera. Naye kubanga temuliimu electoral reforms, 2026 ejja kubeera nga bulijjo ng'omuzannyo gwa bulijjo. Tugenda tetulonda, abapala ne bagenda mu kooti n'esalawo, netugamba katulindire 2031. Walina okubeerawo ezo reforms bwetuba nga tunaafuna abantu bennyini abantu bagamba nti bebantu betulonze. Waliwo ayogedde ku kintu ebiriwo mu palamenti ku ssaawa eno. Bwe biba nti kituufu bye boogera, ebiba nga bituufu, olina okwebuuza omuntu abantu gwe balonda atuuka atya awo? Awo wetugambira nti electoral reforms zeetaagisibwa, kubanga omuntu ng'alondeddwa akolera abantu. So reforms kiri very important, era tusaba nti abantu bakiteekeko amaanyi. Tukimanyi nti ebibiina ebyobufuzi babingiridde nnyo, era ne amaanyi g'ebibiina ebyo ne gakendeera nnyo, they are weak. Kino kikolebwa okulaga nti tewali asobola okuvuganya NRM. Mubalabe laba FDC, laba Nuupu, laba bano bali mu mivuyo, ffeffeka abasobola. Naye ate nga sayidi eno okumamuki tukimanyi ekyo weekiri, naye ffe tusaba ebibiina byonna bateekemu amaanyi okulaba nti batereeza ensonga zaabwe nga basigala nga ekibiina oba ebibiina. Ne NRM nayo tugisaba yedilinkinge enve ku gavumenti, kubanga NRM si ye gavumenti. NRM kibiina, gavumenti abantu yaffena Bannayuganda. Kale NRM okukula yeetaagisa eve ku ki gavumenti. Naye bw'ebeera awo nti bweba nga baagala ssente for registration oba bilioni 15 mugenda ne muzijja wali mu treasury, tosobola kukula ng'ekibiina. Ekisembayo ekyamatembe ne Andrew kyetaagisa okusaba eri Katonda nti atuyambe bintu bibi, Katonda atuyambe tuve mu bizibu bino bye tulaba. Mwebale.
very much. Just a quick comment from the party.
The battery.
So we appreciate our elders in a very unique way. As Alliance for National Transformation, we're exceedingly excited to have our elders make time and commit their own resources to come to this place to give national guidance. We really, really appreciate you. As a party, we are going to be very consistent about our public engagements on trying to find ways of guiding this nation. A lot is not going right, as you all know. We've seen the ongoings in Parliament, the ongoings in our sister parties, the ongoings in the executive. We hope we can find very critical solutions, critical approaches that can guide this nation. And it appears, as we discussed today, that the nexus of the 40 years, with these 40 years of the regime, surely there is a likelihood that this time around we could have better leadership take over from this regime that has certainly put us in a very, very terrible quagmire for the last close 40 years now. So going forward, we will be asking you to engage with us again on other press conferences or other approaches as you'll be seeing. We really appreciate your time. We don't also take it for granted. And so, mwebale nnyo, igwanga lya kuzimba, igwanga lyaffe, igwanga buli omu alina okuvaayo n'amaanyi nituzimba eggwanga. Bano abakulu baffe batuwadde obudde, babuulidde eggwanga kitulina okukola nti ffe Bannayuganda, ng'Gandhi yagamba nti we are the change we have been waiting for. Tulina okuvaayo n'amaanyi tuzimba eggwanga lyaffe, tuliteeka mutindo ntulununula, tuliteeka ku ddaala eryo tubadde nga twagala ng'abantu okuva edda. So n'olwekyo tutugwamu essuubi tuveeyo n'amaanyi twegatte tuzimbe eggwanga lyaffe. Mwebale nnyo.